All right, a lot to get to today after what was obviously a weekend we were locked into with the Phillies. I mean, Friday night, that was one of the coolest regular season games in a long time. A win in extras after the hour rain delay. Saturday, kind of a game that could go either way, goes the wrong way. Yesterday, though, they get beat up. 8-3 yesterday. Wheeler, uncharacteristic. 4 home runs allowed for the first time in his career. And, look, I don't think the series loss this weekend is the biggest deal in the world. The Orioles are a really good team. The Phillies coming off a long road trip. You lose 2 out of 3 on the road to a good team. That happens in Major League Baseball. But I will say there's some concerns now with the Phillies. I mean, there's some things that have played out over a long period of time. And let me just get this out there. When we say concerns, it's big picture, right? I mean, no one's talking about like, hey, what are we going to do if they lose tonight? No, they have a tremendous record. And they have 8 games up in the division, even with the recent struggles, 10-10 their last 20 games. But there are some concerns here with this team. 215-592-9494. I'll start off. What concerns me the most is the offense right now. It's the same thing that concerned me in the beginning of the year. I'm not worried that Wheeler had one bad start. It happens. I'm not worried that Nola had a bad start in Fenway. It happens. What I am concerned about is an offense that in the last 2 weeks is averaging 3.8 runs a game. They've really fallen back to earth here. Most specifically, Nick Castellanos stinks. I know that Castellanos apologists are out there, and they'll tell me he's going to get hot. Over the last year, this guy has the worst on-base percentage in Major League Baseball. Let me say it again. In the last year, Nick Castellanos has the worst on-base percentage in Major League Baseball.
Castellanos.
Yeah, we'll hear from the Castellanos, defenders out there. He's a problem. And we got to get to a point where he's more at the bottom of the order because I can't watch him at 2 anymore. My goodness. 215-592-9494. All right, my concern this morning is the offense. It's struggling right now. It's Bryce. It's Schwarber. Bohm heated back up, which was great to see, but that's really all they got going on right now. Hugh, what are you thinking here? Phillies lose 2 out of 3, but if we're being real, over the last 20 games, they're 10-10, right? They've come back to earth here the last 20 games or so. What's concerning you the most right now, Hugh?
Well, I would say the offense is definitely an issue when you talk about what's going on. But, Joe, it kind of plays into what that Harvard analysis that I had last week was that their hitting was going to be down a little bit. And you're talking about coming off a road trip where – you haven't been home yet. So the hitting has been down a little bit, but to your point, this is starting to work against my better interest. And my better interest, I put out there a while ago that they were going to average 6 runs this season, and it's not really helped me out. The fact that Castellanos is not hitting right now, and the fact that Rojas is kind of killing me, but I'm not willing to move off of that spot just yet. But it is down a little bit, and it is working against my better interest.
Well, it certainly is. And Rojas has been brutal. I mean, I think there's a real chance, and I think they should send him down when they activate trade tonight. We'll see what the Phillies do. We'll talk a lot about it. 215-592-9494. Hugh, there's also the injury factor, right? Because they go hand in hand. Yeah. A big reason why the offense has fallen off is some guys are slumping, but they also don't have JT in there. They haven't had Trey in there for 7 weeks now.
Coming back.
He is coming back tonight, and they need him. I mean, the Phillies absolutely need Trey Turner tonight because their offense right now is a mess. I mean, just the fact that Castellanos bats second. Nick Castellanos, a 2-hitter. No, he can't be. But right now, they don't have many other choices. Hugh, the injuries are a big part of this, too. They're just not whole right now. They're not whole. They're not where they need to be.
Yeah, and that kind of hurts you. It hasn't been an issue the last few weeks, but it's starting to become one. And Joe, I'm here to say that it's like it just feels like this road trip. After this London trip, the baseball guys didn't do them any favors by making this line. I mean, by making this schedule the way that they've made it. Like you got 2 series where you're on the road and now you get to come home. It's just that was kind of tough. Really tough.
It is. I mean, it's one of the tougher road trips. It feels like they haven't been home in forever. I thought about this morning. The last time the Phillies were home at Citizens Bank Park, where they'll be tonight against the Padres, was the game we went to.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been forever.
It has been a while. That was this Wednesday would be 2 weeks since they actually had a home game. It was that Wednesday afternoon against the Brewers. We will.
We will be back. Yeah.
We will. We're going to be there Wednesday for the Padres game. Houston out the first pitch. 215-592-9494. Look, I didn't expect this team to not lose, right? They're going to have a stretch where they go 10-10 over 20. It's not the end of the world. But the offense remains a concern. I said this a couple days into the season, and then they got hot for a month, and it was like maybe their offense is good enough. But I see holes. I see, how many guys do you trust in their lineup every day? I trust Schwarber. I trust Bryce. I think Bohm has been mostly trustworthy this season. But everybody else, I mean, even Bryce, I love Bryce's Stahue. He's had a rough stretch since May 21st or so. He's hitting like 1-something, 200 slugging percentage just then. They've got a lot of spots in the lineup. And then you factor in the injuries, right? Then you're starting to play the Marchands, who had a home run this weekend, and the Stubbs. And it's like, how many guys in the lineup each night can actually hit?
Yeah, and then it doesn't help that you run up against the lineup like the Orioles had.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and it's just a glaring hole. And then when you talk about, this is the tough spot for me. Well, it's not really a tough spot. It is what it is. When you talk about teams that you're going to be potentially facing in the playoffs, like that can hit, and your team is struggling a little bit. And the fact that, Wheeler had a rough day yesterday, which is uncharacteristic for him.
It was.
Uncharacteristic for him. But it was just all of that. It was a perfect storm yesterday in a sense.
It was. And I'm based on the road trip, based on where they're at, based on the injuries, I'm not surprised this weekend happened. Like, if you asked me Friday, do you think they could lose 2 out of 3? Sure. I mean, it was very much on the table, and they did. But I have a concern about this offense. Now, hopefully Trey fixes it, or at least helps it move forward a little bit here. But there's dead spots. I mean, when you roll out a lineup that has Castellanos batting second, and you have David Dahl and Garrett Stubbs at the bottom, and obviously the day before Marchand's in there, there's dead spots in this lineup. And Castellanos is the one. They have to figure something out here in this outfield, because this outfield is not good enough right now to win with. I mean, not to win a World Series with. I'll put it that way.
It's starting to feel like that we wait and see. It's kind of starting to wear thin just a little bit, because even we talked to Scott on Friday. It's not like he's saying anything disparaging about him, but it's starting to get to a point where it's not looking like it's going to turn around anytime soon. And you have to figure out what you're going to do. And the tough part about this is this. It's all about the vibes and everything. The vibes are, I think, a big part of what makes this team as good as they are. But at the end of the day, you got to get over the hump this year. I mean, it's going to be so disappointing if we're not where we all think that this team needs to be at the end of the baseball season.
Well, I agree with that. And 215-592-9494 to hop in. Let's discuss the weekend, the series. Obviously, the atmosphere was awesome down there. I mean, it felt like some Phillies home games. Obviously, it
was warm, too.
It was. They got drowned out a little bit because the Orioles won the last 2 games. But I thought that Friday game was just incredible. The plays at the plate and the Bohm hit in the 11th inning. By the way, on Castellanos, one more number for you guys, and then we'll get Kyle's thoughts on all this. So his season numbers are atrocious. I mean, he's hitting barely over 200 with 9 home runs. His on-base percentage is terrible. In this series against Baltimore, right? Biggest series of the year. He has to bat second because they're down so many guys. Nick Castellanos went 0 for 14 this weekend against the Orioles with 6 strikeouts. 0 for 14 with 6 strikeouts. Sometimes when I watch Castellanos, he looks to me like a player that should be designated for assignment. Like, he's not a starter right now on a championship team. Unfortunately, they got no choice.